today we are going to be talking about my birth story. We're going to be talking about my pregnancy, leading up to the pregnancy, my birth, and then up to 4 months. This sweet girl is going to turn 4 months old tomorrow. So we are just celebrating that, and we're going to kind of reminisce a little bit and talk about all the things that led up to her arrival. So I'm just going to talk until she goes down for a nap. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and get started. So first things first, just starting with the background of getting pregnant and everything. It took my husband and I about 1.5 years to get pregnant with her. We actually ended up moving to South Carolina. We live here in Virginia, and we ended up moving near the beach. We thought we wanted to live there. We wanted to try it out before we had kids. We were like, well, it's taking forever to get pregnant, might as well try it out. So we ended up going, and a week after we moved, I found out I was pregnant. So our family is close by, and so we were kind of sad that she wasn't going to be around family and everything like that. So we ended up moving back. There was a long story about my job and lots of things that played into that, but we ended up moving back, and I ended up giving birth here. We moved back, I think I was about 28 to 32 weeks pregnant. I'm not sure exactly how long I was here for, but it was pretty much my last trimester pregnancy. I moved back. So my pregnancy, as you guys know, I'm a nurse, so my pregnancy was definitely what they call the nurse curse. As far as like the actual pregnancy, it was a pretty easy pregnancy, but as far as the complications in the pregnancy, it seems like a lot, and what happened after birth seemed like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, it really wasn't, because I felt fine, I was fine. So everything with her was good. I ended up failing my gestational diabetes test, the 3-hour one. I also failed the 1-hour one, so I had to go and do the 3-hour one. So I ended up failing that, so they diagnosed me with gestational diabetes. So mine was just diet controlled, so I checked my sugar 4 times a day. I really limited my carbs. I made sure that, I was eating as good as I could, and so that was the first issue. I could have a big baby, they said, all of the things that play into the role of gestational diabetes. So that was fine. I was a little upset, but it was fine. So fast forward to when I moved back, I started having some high blood pressures in the office, and so they kept checking it a little bit. They had me to check it at home, and they were okay at home, but then when I go to the office, it would be a little elevated, so they checked labs. Labs looked fine, but long story short, I believe I was 36 weeks pregnant. I went to the office, and it was pretty elevated, and so we decided to just induce me at 37 weeks. So it was about a week after that appointment I went in to get induced with this sweet little girl. So I went in about 8:30 that morning to get induced. Of course, they don't start anything right away. It was a few hours of just asking questions and getting me checked in and all of that stuff. So I went in, did all of that stuff. I ended up getting Cytotec, which is a pill you take to kind of get your cervix going, get your labor started. So I ended up taking that by mouth a few hours after I got in, probably about 10. And that kind of helped get my labor started. I really didn't need Pitocin at that time. Usually when you get induced, you need Pitocin because your body isn't in labor. Bless you. Your body isn't in labor, and so you need the Pitocin to get your uterus contracting. So my body was pretty much doing it on its own. I was already dilated to about 2 to 3 centimeters when I got into the hospital, so that helps a lot. I did not have to have a Foley balloon, which I've heard is extremely painful, so I was super happy that I did not have to have that. So I pretty much started out pretty good. So I did, are you going to throw a fit? Are you going to throw a fit? Sorry, she's just so cute. So I started out with Cytotec. I was doing fine. And then towards the end of about 6-7 o'clock hour, I believe, they ended up breaking my water to see kind of if my body would still do it. So my body did continue to be in labor for a while, and then I ended up having to start Pitocin. So I think I only got to about a 6 of Pitocin. So if anybody that's been on Pitocin, they go up usually by 2 every 30 minutes. If your tracing looks good, sometimes they go up by 1. So they started me at a 2 and I ended up getting up to a 6 until I had her. So I was on Pitocin for a while. I ended up getting an epidural about 1:30 in the morning. And, you know, I felt like I was tolerating it pretty well, but I was so tired. I was like, I just need a nap. I just want to sleep. So I ended up getting an epidural, which was fine. I ended up going to sleep, and then I woke up and I had like really, 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 really sharp pains in my bottom area. Like it was just a really sharp pain. I didn't feel anything in my belly. So I was like, well, hey, you know, I feel like I'm feeling something. And so I was a 9. So they got the peanut ball, they put that in between my legs, and they kind of let me labor down for a little bit. So I kind of rested, and then the pain got really intense. So, long story short, I was 10 centimeters. I ended up pushing for 40 minutes with little girl, which is pretty good for my first baby. I did end up tearing, so I did have to get stitching, which I felt all of that. My epidural did not take very well. It cut out everything in my contractions, but I felt all of the pushing, all of the stitching, all of the aftermath. I could move my legs. I could do everything. I wasn't completely numb. So I felt all of that, and I made it through. So that's a good thing. So everything was good. She ended up having to go to the NICU. So right before delivery, I spiked a temperature, and we ended up having to get antibiotics. So they called me something called chorioamniocentesis, which is an infection that you can get at delivery or being ruptured for a while, which I really wasn't ruptured for that long. But they ended up calling me that, so me and her had to get antibiotics, so she had to go to the neonatal intensive care unit for just a little bit. She had to get an IV in her hand, and they gave her her first dose of antibiotics. So we had to do that. So really, we did not have a ton of skin to skin. I did not get to breastfeed right before she went. We just kind of snuggled. They did her weight really quick, which she was 8 pounds even at 37 weeks. So this little chunker, she was a chunk at that age. She was sweet and cute, but she was a chunk. And I don't even want to know what she would have been if I would have gone all the way to 40 weeks. She probably would have been a 10-pounder. But so she went to NICU, and I was going to meet them over on the postpartum unit, which is actually where I work. So I was going to meet them over there. And so I had to get cleaned up. I had to get my epidural catheter out and all of that. The second they took my epidural catheter out, I started getting a really, really bad headache. And I was like, well, maybe it's just a migraine from pushing. I know my hemoglobin was kind of low, so maybe I just didn't feel good when I got up to the bathroom. So I just had a headache. So I got up and I was just like so woozy. I could barely even stand it. I was so out of it. They rolled me to the room. I barely even remember the ride there. I know some people that I work with talked to me, but I really don't remember what happened. I know that Aaron was there and my husband, and that's all that I remember. So that entire day, I was pretty much out of commission. I tried to breastfeed her. My head hurt so bad, so I ended up hand expressing. For those of you that breastfeed, you probably know what hand expressing is. I ended up hand expressing a ton and giving her just spoonfuls of my colostrum because I could barely sit up to even breastfeed or even function. So I pretty much fell right asleep when I got in there, and I woke up to feed her, and that's pretty much all that I could do. They had to come in and tell me to get up to go to the bathroom because it had been too long. So I got up to the bathroom. I ended up being able to go, but it was all that I could handle to even get to the bathroom, to even, do anything. So I went back to bed. I went through the night with that headache. I just kind of thought, I don't get migraines, so maybe it's just a bad headache. But I knew that it could be a spinal headache. Really laying flat was the only thing that could relieve it. I know! So I just put her down for a nap. So I ended up having a spinal headache. And so that's why I was so out of commission the first day. So when you have a spinal headache, you can either pretty much like wait till it goes away. So basically, I could have gone home and pretty much been out of commission for about a week, or I could get what's called a blood patch, which is kind of like another epidural, but they actually draw your own blood and they inject it into that site. So I ended up opting to do the blood patch because I wanted to get back on my feet. I did not think that I could take care of a newborn as well as I wanted to when I went home. So I ended up going and getting a blood patch, which basically when you get a blood patch, you kind of trade the headache for back pain. It hurts when the blood goes through. You have to lay flat for about an hour afterwards, and it really hurts. My back pain did not stay the entire time, but it really was a sharp, like throbbing, heavy type pain. It just felt heavy and like something was laying on my back, and it was just like just ripping through my back. It hurt. But I was so glad to be done with the headache. I was so glad to be able to just function that I just didn't care. So I ended up getting that, and then as the night went on, my back felt fine. My head, it still had a mild headache, but it was nothing like it was. So we went home the next day, and I felt completely fine. I'm so thankful for the blood patch now. The anesthesiologist was wonderful that did it. The anesthesiologist was wonderful that did my epidural too. I just think my body just decided that it didn't want to take it or something. So, yeah. So I went home and everything was great, and we got to have her meet our sweet dog for the first time. So when she met our dog, he has been our baby for the past almost 4 years. The only one. We call him our firstborn child because he was our only child. So we were a little bit nervous about how he would do with a baby. Months later, he is so happy that she is his sister. He's very protective of her. I wouldn't say they're best friends yet, but he's definitely getting there, especially for being the only dog and the only baby in the house. He's doing really well with her. She has been an amazing, amazing baby. She's very laid back. She rarely cries. If she does cry, she legitimately needs something. She just kind of hangs out all day, and she's more than we could have ever asked for. When we first got her home, breastfeeding was an issue, which a lot of people struggle with breastfeeding. It was a big issue. It was very painful for me. She wasn't gaining weight like she should have, and we were like, well, maybe she has a lip tie or a tongue tie. So we had our doctor look at it. They didn't think that she had a tongue tie, but they said, yeah, she does have a little bit of a lip tie, but it shouldn't cause too many issues, and if it does, you can go for a consult. Well, it ended up causing, continuing to cause issues, so we did go for the consult, and she ended up having both. So we had both of them revised, which was very rigorous. If any of you guys have had your child get a tongue and lip tie reversal, the stretching and the exercises that you have to do at home are just horrendous. Like, they're the worst part of the entire thing. The surgery or the procedure itself is very short. It probably took about 2 minutes, if that, for both. So that part, that that was hard, but it's not as hard as having to wake up at 2:30 in the morning and stretch your daughter's tongue and lip and have her scream. She hated it. Every baby hates it. We had to do it 6 times a day, and we could not go past 6 hours each time. So I did have to wake her up in the middle of the night, even if she wasn't awake, and I still had to do the stretches, and that was just awful. So I would always kind of associate them with diaper changes so that she wouldn't associate them with feedings. It was just a lot. So we got through that. We still were not breastfeeding like I wanted her to be. She still wasn't gaining weight like I wanted her to. She was transferring milk. It didn't hurt as much, but I still was terrified that she wasn't getting. So I ended up exclusively pumping for a good, probably full month and a half to 2 months. That's all I did was pump. My supply was great. She took the bottles wonderfully. She took bottles anyways good because I wanted to make sure that she did when I was at work. But we did that for probably 2 months. And now going on probably a month, I would say, we have been latching again. So one day I was like, well, let me just try to latch her again and see how she does. And she ended up doing beautifully. So that's pretty much all that we do. I may pump like once a day, if that. Sometimes I don't pump at all, and then I pump at work. But now she's doing beautifully, and she's turning 4 months tomorrow. And she has chunked up a ton. She was kind of a chunk when she was born, but she looked tiny. I'll insert some pictures. She looked tiny, but she was still, 8 pounds at 37 weeks, which is considered a lot. So, yeah, she's doing great now. I can't wait to see what she weighs at her 4-month appointment next week, which I'll do an update on her 4-month, by the way. I'm so sorry. I'm, like, yawning constantly, and it's probably just mom life, but so sorry. But yeah, she's doing great, and all in all, my birth was pretty non-traumatic, really non-eventful, which I'm so thankful for because we had so many issues leading up to and after. It was a lot after, with Erin having to get her sugars checked, with her getting antibiotics, with me getting antibiotics, me having a spinal headache, trying to breastfeed, trying to heal from a vaginal delivery. It was just a lot, but I cannot be more thankful for the baby girl that we are blessed with. God truly blessed us with, the best thing that we could ever ask for, and we cannot be more thankful. So I just wanted to share my birth story with you guys today. There's going to be more content coming soon, but I know that I love watching people's birth stories, and I love just kind of hearing how theirs went. I feel like mine might have been a little jumbled, but I wanted to kind of relive it when it's kind of fresh in my mind and I kind of know all of the emotions, the details, and all of that. So much for watching today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below. I would love to have you guys be a part of our family here on YouTube. I'm just starting out, honestly, but I will be doing some lifestyle videos, some mommy videos, nursing, cooking, cleaning, any type of videos that most moms like to watch, some days in the life, things like that. So I would love to have you guys be a part of this journey with me. I cannot wait to start this YouTube journey, and I'm super, super excited. So I hope to see you guys soon, and have a great day. Erin Nicole, born on December 17th, 2019 at 6:29 a.m. Total labor from start to finish was 22 hours. We love you, baby girl.